All right, welcome, fellow TFFL owners. It's Wednesday evening, October 7th, 2015, and we're looking ahead to Week 5 TFFL action. I'm Stick, managing editor of TFFL Media and leader of the Aliens, joined as always by Chief, our commissioner and skipper of the Sponge Fishermen.
Good evening.
Hank, czar and CEO of the K-Wheels.
Good evening, all.
And our two-time defending champs and undefeated Jack's Giant Killers. Berto, welcome.
Hello. How are you guys?
So we're going to talk a lot about, I think we can now start talking about the standings a little bit, about playoff races taking shape. Are some teams really for real? Are they going to be able to keep it up throughout the year? But before we get into our usual roundtable chat here, let me give you a great TFFL trivia question. I'm confident in you all that by the end of the show, when I give you the correct answer, you'll have figured it out. And everybody at home, play along as well. Scribble down your responses here. You'll have some time to sort this out. How many different states has the TFFL draft been conducted in over the years?
I had a feeling you're going to ask something like that.
Just
Name them all.
Name them all. Man.
All right. Before we really start looking ahead to Week 5 and getting into our usual debates, let's take a quick look back to Week 4. Chief, do we have best and worst lineup moves to talk about this week?
Yeah, we do. Got probably more bad than good, but let's give the Giant Killers a little props here. They made a move with Gronkowski on bye to get Zach Ertz on the team. And instead of playing Zach Ertz, they went with Vincent Jackson instead. Vincent Jackson scored 14 points, Zach Ertz 0. So it wasn't quite enough to make a difference, I don't think, but it was certainly a rewarded move. Likewise, Sponge Fisherman last week, Greg Olson had a huge game. I think he had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. And I caught a little heat for sitting him down last week in favor of, can't think of his first name now, Terrence Williams, who got 0 stats the week before. But I like the matchups. I didn't like Olson's matchup. And I didn't want to second guess myself. And I netted 7 there, 8 versus 1. So yay me. Going to the bad moves, and all of these are somewhat justifiable. It would be a pretty bad segment if I just said, no, they're all good moves. They got on the Beavers here. The Beavers made an FA move not too long ago for Green Bay tight end Richard Rodgers, who obviously is not a physical specimen. He's not going to lead the league in touchdowns anytime. But he plays in a high-powered offense, and there was a proactive move to obtain him. But his 8 points stayed on the bench. Tavon Austin, his 17 points stayed on the bench. And in order to put in Devontae Parker and his 1 catch for 9 yards, I believe, over in London. Going on blind faith, I guess, because Parker hasn't shown anything this year. Blind or pedigree or watching ACC football last year, I don't know. Let me move over to Boba Fett's, and fantasy journalists kind of covered this. But listen, Matthew Stafford's been struggling. It wouldn't have shocked me if he wasn't kept. The last few years, he hasn't been good. He's playing against a historically great defense in Seattle, assuming you believe Seattle this year is materially the same to Seattle last year defensively. Which may not be exactly true. But going for Stafford for 3 points and leaving Jameis Winston, who nobody knows who he is yet. He makes a lot of dumb mistakes, but he seems to score some fantasy points. And so that 12 points on the bench would have given Stats a victory over Stafford's 3. Finally, the wheels. We've talked about the wheels for about 3 years now. He runs 4 running backs strong. I mean, not just 4 startable running backs, 4 strong running backs on his team. And the one left out was Doug Martin this week, who led them all with 13 points.
Yep.
wasn't going to help Hank win.
No.
But it just shows the danger in having so much talent at a position where you're in danger of constantly choosing the wrong one. Who do we talk about regularly about having two quarterbacks and they're always going to start the wrong one? Maybe that was a last year thing, and maybe it was the Hams, I think, with Ryan and Roethlisberger. It's one of those things where it's a wealth of riches, and I don't want to pretend that's a bad thing. It's a great thing, but these things are going to happen periodically. You got to end up sitting the wrong one.
Indeed. I'll live with it. I'll take 4 strong running backs and deal with the consequences.
Okay, let's jump into our roundtable chat here.
Yeah. When I start drinking, that means end of segment.
All right, good. Take that cue next time. Listen, I said it last week. I'll say it again. Things change so dramatically in the TFFL from week to week. The K-Wheels, as we've just talked about, are our latest example. I mean, they scored almost 100 points less.
95 less.
Almost 100. I mean, it hardly seems possible.
Wow.
Same lineup except for Doug Martin. I had Doug Martin in the week before, and I did DeMarco Murray out. I put Murray in. That was the only change.
But yeah, I don't want to talk too much about the K-Wheels because really this topic is about the giant killers. Because and here's my point. Last week we were talking about the K-Wheels as the early season favorite. Things have changed so much 1 week later. I think we got to be back talking about our 2-time defending champs who probably deserve to be the early season favorites all along. I mean, let's give Berto his due real quick. I want to run through this. 2 straight titles, obviously undefeated at 4-0 this year, despite the injury to Arian Foster, despite the injury to Tony Romo, despite the injury to Marshawn Lynch, despite the lack of a first and second round pick. It's impressive work. So I'm going to ask the same question. Are the Killers indeed the favorites, or maybe are they too old and fragile? Are they going to break down, not have the right pieces healthy when it matters most? And I'll let you guys lambaste the Andy Dalton trade as much as you want in your response here.
All right, I'll start. Nick did not get enough in the Andy Dalton trade, first and foremost. He should have gotten more, and it helped Berto a lot. Secondly, Berto is obviously the favorite. He's won it twice in a row. Until somebody knocks him down, he's the favorite. I love being in the discussion, and I would like my team to score more than 31 points. But Berto's the team to beat, and until somebody beats him, that's how it is.
Well, I'll say that he has the best chance of anybody of three-peating, but I don't see it. It's just his scoring has been on the lower side. On a week-to-week basis, he had a one pretty good outburst. I think he's third in the league in scoring right now in the season. He could very easily be 1-3 right now if he was matched up against a league average team. He's caught some scheduling luck this year. Is he the best team? No, I don't think so. He's obviously 4-0. He'll probably end up, with a first-round bye, and he'll probably be in the semifinals. But no, I think, and Stick, you've hit it. I mean, it's good to have all that depth. I mean, frankly, to even be 500 with the injuries he's gone through and last week's bye is just incredible, which explains part of the low scoring he's been doing. So, yes, in theory, if you get those guys back, great. But as you hinted at it, there's a reason why some of these guys are out. They're getting old. They've been injury-prone guys. They've been overused guys in the case of Lynch and Foster. And like in the case of Peyton Manning, which we'll talk about later, I'm sure, it's they say Father Time's undefeated. And I think we're just seeing the signs of decay. So we'll see. I would say that he's not going to three-peat this year.
Berto, a quick answer?
So, no, just in terms of the scoring. So yes, I am third in points. I've been fairly consistent. I had actually one low week in the 50s and then an 82, I think. So I mean that's not a huge margin of difference. I think Andy Dalton's going to help. Hopefully he's going to help. As I stated in my response to that trade. It's also an audition for a guy who's 27 for next year. And maybe Romo is not a keeper next year. So we'll see what happens there. So hopefully Dalton helps. Foster's back. The one thing about him being injured for a few games is that's I've gone 4-0 with him not playing, and that's a little less mileage on him, and hopefully he can last and come back and do something. Marshall looks great. He doesn't look old at all. He's had 3 100-yard games. Um, I don't think the issue is Marshawn Lynch, to be honest with you. I think it's that offensive line, and hopefully they get things sorted out. I don't think Lynch is the issue there necessarily. Yeah, he's a little bit banged up now, but I think it's been more the line. Um, Jeremy Hill has me very happy and very concerned, I guess, at the same time. He had 2 TDs the first game and 3 this past game, but certainly he's got some competition with Bernard. Um, so, yeah, I mean, I think I have a decent chance. I'll put it at 20%. How about that? To 3P.
And the one thing I didn't touch on, which I meant to, was with the assumption that this is his roster going forward. I'm sure there's trades out there. Berto's going to try to swing a big one. So obviously that can boost his chances considerably.
But I mean, listen, teams can start 6-0 and end up 7-6. We saw that with I think one of our panelists last year. So I don't want to say Berto's definitely going to be a first round bye, but at 4-0, I think it's fair to say he's probably got a playoff spot. Not locked up yet, but it's easy to forecast. Then it's a matter of can he win 2 or 3 games, and again, having all the right pieces healthy at that time is going to be critical. But yeah, getting out to a 4-0 start certainly positions him. You're going to have a chance, Berto.
Yeah, I mean, we got a lot of competition in the NoCo. I'm still scared of the Lizards, and obviously the Wheels right behind me. It's only 4 games in. Yeah, they're 2 games back, but I want that bye. I want to be able to. I don't want to play in week 14. So that's my goal. So I figure I need to go 5-4 the rest of the way out to get to 9-4, and that should get me a bye, I think.
I would think so.
So that's the goal right now is 9-4. If I get to 9-4, I'll be happy. And if I get that first round bye, then you have a 25% chance. So that's why I put my my odds at 20%. I think that's a fair number.
All right, we'll see. Okay, so some of my questions have long wind-ups. Some have really short ones. This will be a short one. What's been the biggest surprise in the TFFL this year to you? Could be a team, could be a player, could be a trend.
I'll start. I think it's got to be the Senators. I think we spent many webcasts lambasting the Senators, and they had a great strategy, I think, in the draft, which was a complete youth movement, and some of that youth is paying off, combined with Tom Brady, obviously. So in my mind, the overwhelming surprise has to be the Senators' success thus far.
I will co-sign the Senators. I just played them, and sadly, I'm having to look up at them. But Kramer did a good job. He has put it together nicely, and I think, Berto, that we should take credit for his draft strategy and his focus on making his team better by ripping him a little bit. Kramer responds to that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? And you're right, Phil. We know Kramer is one of the people who is actually watching the webcast.
Yes, indeed. We know he's watching. So hello, Kramer, and congratulations. Well done. Yes. Let me go the other way in terms of a surprise and say I'm surprised the Beavers are so bad, and I guess maybe I shouldn't be. They're 1-3, and I guess Le'Veon Bell being out definitely hurt them. But they're starting Richard Rodgers, and they're Matt Jones is in. So I'm surprised at the Beavers how they've started the season.
The Beavers are the 3rd worst scoring team.
Yeah. I think that a lot of us thought, I thought that they'd be a tough squad this year and might be a team to reckon with, and maybe they still will be. They might still put it together, but I'm surprised they're off to such a bad start.
Well, let me go from teams, since you've covered that pretty well, to NFL players, and we're gonna touch a little bit tangentially on the K wheels here. But the top two scoring wide receivers are right now in TFFL. Number one's Larry Fitzgerald. Number two is Julio Jones.
Look at that strength in receivers.
You want to see where those points are coming from.
Yeah.
But then you look at Peyton Manning. Anyone want to guess where Peyton Manning is in scoring quarterbacks?
15th.
18th.
Zick?
10th.
He's actually tied, a three-way tie for 17th with Joe Flacco and Russell Wilson, which kind of reflects poorly on Russell Wilson too. But we're talking, and let me pull up this website I just had here. We're talking behind such luminaries as Blake Bortles, and of course now it's not loading. But behind some really surprising guys that you would say, and we all expected Manning was going to take a step back this year. He was showing signs last year. I think just 2 weeks ago, maybe even last week, we said, oh, they'll be fine. He's still going to score his fantasy points. And tied for 17th, the three-way tie for 17th is not good. And so you're looking at, is the quarterback position, as hard as it is to say, is the quarterback position anchor on the K-wheels right now.
I can wear that. I mean, I'm definitely concerned about Peyton and his new arm and the lack of Teddy Bridgewater showing me anything. That's why I'm surprised that Nick. I didn't even know. Maybe that's my bad. It definitely is my bad for not being more assertive in doing that. But I think I would have paid more than a 4 in Zach Ertz for Andy Dalton right now. So
number 2 scoring quarterback in.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that'll last either, because he's been, I think last year he was down around 17th. So, I don't know if Andy Dalton's the answer, but he certainly looks good thus far.
Peyton's just getting going. He's saving it. Last year he started too quick and they faded, and this year he's gonna ramp it up.
What's got to concern you is he's playing the good weather part of his schedule right now.
That's true.
He's playing the September games. Wait till December comes, in Denver and in Kansas City.
Yeah.
I think Kubiak is still getting his head around this too. He went. I don't know if it was the second or third game. Peyton had a good game, and Kubiak, let him play in the shotgun the whole time, and get into the flow of things a little bit. So maybe that's part of it too. That there's still that feeling out process with Kubiak, and maybe when they're past that a little bit more, things will open up for Manning. I mean, they should, because let's face it. C.J. Anderson isn't getting it done the way he has. Hillman's looked pretty good, but the strength of that team is Emmanuel Sanders and Demaryius Thomas, and they got to figure out how to use them.
Yep.
And then the other thing and then you wonder how much does Julius Thomas not being there affect Manning as well. But at the end of the day, I've said it multiple times. I think at the end of the season, Manning is going to be in the top 10.
I hope you're right.
I would hope so. The top 10 seems to be a little, low-hanging fruit for Peyton Manning. And I think it's a protection issue in Denver as much as everybody else. He doesn't seem to have 2.5 seconds of protection most play to wait for Sanders and Thomas to get open.
Yeah.
Grant, they were playing the vaunted Vikings defense this week. I mean, that's a tall order.
I think your bigger concern right now is DeMarco Murray.
Yeah, I was a little concerned when he got the trade to Philly. I think I might have said that earlier, but yeah, they haven't figured out how to use him yet. And I guess Matthews has been playing decently, and Sproles has been playing pretty decently. And I don't know. We'll see if they figure out how to use him. Hopefully, as a battering ram at the goal
line. Okay, so for our next topic, I want to jump off from a quick point the Chief made in his commissioner's report. And, even before I get to that, I want to quickly echo some of the sentiments of our fellow owners. Chief, you do a great job getting that thing out on Tuesday morning. I think you found sort of the right depth to it. We don't need a 6-page package that takes all week to put together. You do a good job giving us some insights, giving us a quick wrap up, giving us some nice art to look forward to. And you give it to us on Tuesday when we're thinking about the games, and gets us ready for the next week right there. Thank you.
Here, here. Yes. Thank you, Chief.
Nothing gets comments like the last segment of the report.
Of course not. That's the highlight, man.
I look forward to it.
I think Hank scrolls down first before he starts reading it.
Chief, I have to be honest. I don't. I make myself read the whole thing.
It's a reward.
I do.
All right. So, the point Chief made at the top of the report was talking about some of the low scores this week. Obviously, the bye weeks contributed to that. We still have a lot of big injuries out there. But listen, there's a reason we highlight the best and worst lineup moves on this webcast. It's because they're important. And I think as we get into the bye weeks, it's that time of year. We talked about this last year, where really good owners are managing, especially in our 3 running back league. Good owners are really having to manage their roster, their lineup every single week. You got to be active on free agency. You're seeing the types of trades we're seeing. Andy Dalton, Zach Ertz moving from team to team to team. Defenses trading hands. Here's what I'm getting to. Is I want to talk about bye week strategy, because at the draft, you hear people talking about bye week conflicts factoring into keeper decisions and draft decisions. What I want to know is, do you worry much about it if you have 2 or 3 keepers with the same bye week? Do you make sure you don't draft too many players? Kramer obviously picked 2 quarterbacks with the same bye week. Do you look for backup quarterbacks who've got a great matchup when your keeper quarterback has a bye week? Berto and I talked about bye week strategies with kickers and defenses last week. Here's the really big question, and I'll shut up. With 20-man rosters, are those who worry about bye weeks overthinking it?
I don't think so. I think it definitely comes into play. For example, this year I came into the draft with, I think, 2 running backs with the same bye week. Last year as receivers, and I won't take another receiver early, the same bye week, or unless he's far and away my favorite guy on the board, I'll bypass him to take a guy who can cover those bye weeks. Once you get past round 8 or something like that, I don't think it matters anyway. You draft him for to hit a home run, or you're drafting a handcuff, or just take the best player available. The other thing, Stick, that you touched on was the backup quarterback, and I've done that sometimes. Usually I try to target 1 or 2 backup quarterbacks who I like more than the rest. If those 2 guys are gone, I absolutely look at the schedule where my quarterback's bye week is, and I try to figure out who's playing the Jaguars or the Titans or whatever your shitty team of the year is there, and hopefully you only need him for 1 game.
Yeah. So I look at the bye weeks for all positions except for running back and wide receiver. There I'm just taking the best talent available. But I am looking at obviously we talked about the kicker and kickers in defense. You have to look at that, obviously, in quarterback. And then also tight end. I'm never going to pick a tight end that has the same bye week as Gronkowski, right? So, that was part of the reason why I picked up Ertz to begin with, simply because I wanted a tight end who did not have, somebody who I could put in last week if I couldn't play Rawls or Lynch or Foster, actually, was the big one I was protecting against. But the other thing about the tight end and bye strategies, and I think I've really had an advantage, and I think Ralph has too with Graham, and I've had a very big advantage with Gronkowski and Fats when Julius Thomas was playing well, is that tight end flexibility of being able to put in for a receiver or a running back. I prefer to have Gronkowski as a receiver. That's how I want to play it. I want to have 3 running backs, but having that tight end is a definite plug and play. You can switch back and forth from running back to wide receiver as needed during those bye weeks.
Yeah, I agree. You got to look at it at least. I know I have a week where I got 2 of my 4 running backs have the same bye. It's when you have 4 running, it's pretty much unavoidable at some point. So I'm gonna start somebody, probably a tight end that you can plug in there. But yeah, you got to look at it. It's important, but I don't overthink it that much.
Yeah, I particularly don't worry about it at wide receiver. I think actually Sammy Watkins and Allen Robinson, my two keeper receivers, have the same bye week. I feel like you can always go find a receiver or two in a pinch.
Yeah.
But with running backs, yeah, and that's as I kept 4 running backs, there were 4 running backs with different bye weeks. I knew my keeper running backs alone were going to pretty much, as long as they stayed healthy, of course, going to ensure me the ability to put together 3 guys who are going to get touches every week. And if I had bye week conflicts there, that probably would have changed draft strategy, maybe even keeper strategy at running back. Okay. I got a fascinating topic. Chief, I think you actually brought this up briefly last week. It's a really interesting one. I call it the Tom Brady dilemma, and we'll see how this plays out. The Senators are 3-1, correct? Winning their division, playing perhaps above their heads, but at the moment you got to run with it. At some point you can see this down the line where the Senators have Tom Brady scoring, 20 points on his worst week, 32, 28, stud quarterback. If he reaches a point where he's, 4-4, is he going to make the playoffs or not? He knows he's not going to keep Brady because he's drafted Marcus Mariota. That's probably his keeper quarterback next year. If he's going to trade Brady, he's going to get the most by doing it in season right now. How does he balance that potential windfall from a Brady trade with obviously the pursuit of a playoff spot?
I'll chime in here. I think Kramer's it's been a long time since the Sens were in the playoffs. I think Kramer's all in on a playoff berth and trying to go further. So he's not going to trade him. Unless he goes loses 5 games in a row. He's not trading him. He's all in to make the playoffs and make some noise this year. It's been a while for him. And then honestly, who do you trade him to? Do you trade him to the Wheels? I don't know. Who else is going to bite?
I'm not saying right now, and I think it's great that Kramer's going for the playoffs, but what I think is interesting is the thought of him, again, maybe let's call it 5-5 or 5-6 as we approach the trade deadline. Are you really all in on the playoffs then?
I think you are. I don't think at that point we're going to see him trade Brady for picks. I can definitely see a scenario where you can trade Brady for a running back or a really good receiver. If Brady's averaging 24 and Tyrod Taylor is averaging 21, then I think, I can see that happening. The other scenario, unless he's close to mathematically eliminated, I don't think you ought to trade Brady for picks.
Yeah.
Tom Brady for Jeremy Hill.
No, absolutely not.
No. Brady's going to be tough, he's sort of, right about where Peyton was last year, let's say, where he's still firing, he's looking good, but Brady does not have a lot left, and maybe he does. I don't want to discount him. He's an athlete, but I don't know how much I'd give up for him, as an upgrade. Well, we'll see. If Peyton Manning falls off the shelf, I might pay a lot for him. But I think that's a tough market to value.
Yeah, I think Chief raises a good point. Trading him, but then again, if you're trading Brady in season this year, you're going to be trading him to a competitor. That competitor is only going to want to trade you draft picks, or they're not going to want to trade you talent on their team.
Yeah.
He's stuck.
That's what I meant in terms of valuing and putting together the right deal. It's going to be really hard to do it especially if he's trying to get better. I don't know that Brady is that. I mean, he's an asset, but he's not a long-term asset that you want to
Well, that's the problem. Now, fast forward to the offseason. Let's say Kramer doesn't trade Brady. I don't think he's going to be able to trade Brady in the offseason. I mean, maybe.
I'd take him for 9th.
The
Yeah,
market
exactly.
is going to be tougher then.
Yeah.
So Hank, hypothetical, if he offers you Brady for, let's say,
Yeah.
Doug Martin, down the line, is that something to entertain?
I'm sorry. I totally did not hear that.
Let's say we're coming down to the end of the season, towards the trade deadline,
Yeah.
and let's say you're underachieving a little bit, but you're still good. You're gonna make the playoffs. You're okay. Kramer's probably gonna make the playoffs too, but his running back's a little weak, and maybe he takes an injury. And let's say he offers you Brady for, say, Doug Martin. Is that something you consider?
Peyton's banged up.
And Peyton's banged up. Maybe Peyton's banged up. I would try and do it for a pick first, and if he's absolutely not doing it for a pick, I'd have to, it depends how desperate I am and what other deal I could maybe make. Like I said, I don't know if, let's pretend Peyton went down and I needed a quarterback and I overpaid for Brady. Am I going to be excited about keeping him next year? Yeah, I guess, but it's kind of like the bridge I'm doing this year with Peyton. I'm going to do it all over again.
Yeah.
I'd rather see him fall into a ton of riches and have Brady, Mariota, and Taylor all blowing it up, and let me go trade for Mariota or Taylor.
Interesting.
That can happen too. Sure.
I'll say on the record, I don't like Brady going to the wheels one bit this year.
Yeah, this year Brady would be a good trade for me, and if I'm right there, I might trade for him to try and put it over the top.
Again, Tom Brady has played 3 weeks this year. He had a bye week 4, so he has had 20 points, 28, 32. If he keeps doing that like he did at the end of last year, that is a difference maker that, either Kramer keeps and hopefully rides a long way. But if the rest of Kramer's lineup doesn't cooperate in the long term, somebody should be willing to pay a lot for that. Again, under the right circumstances, an injured quarterback like Romo or Roethlisberger. I've got Carson Palmer's playing well for me as my backup, but there's going to be a team out there that perhaps could really use 25, 30 points a week at the top of their lineup.
Yeah, but then, again, you just mentioned a bunch of other guys. Before I gave up a lot for Brady, I'd go see what I had to give up for Carson Palmer. I'd go see what I had to give up for the other guys that might be out there.
Andy Dalton.
Andy Dalton. And Berto might flip him right back and make a better draft pick out of it for stashing Dalton for a few weeks.
Maybe.
But yeah, that's an interesting hypothetical, and I think Kramer, poor Kramer, has the trouble of having, a number of assets at quarterback that he's going to have to figure out how to, accurately manage. Because I agree, if he doesn't move him before the trade deadline, I think he's going to be tougher and less valuable to move.
So let's see. Again, I hope Kramer keeps it up. Good for him. But if he again falls back in that 500 range, that's the dilemma. Is he might get nothing for Brady if he holds on to him in a playoff push that may not result in a playoff spot.
I'm thinking of this. I'll even go further. If Taylor or Mariota becomes a viable every week starter, I think he'll do it. I do. Because I don't think he's planning on keeping Brady, and he wants to get something out of it. And let's say he's 4-4. I think he's like, I'll roll with Mariota and let's go, and let's see how it is, and I'll get a second-round pick out of Hank to make it happen.
Yeah, and honestly, getting picks, going back to Chief's point before, you can always take those picks and then, bunch them up and trade for something else. So that's a potential, sure. So he's not going to get anything but picks, really, at the end of the day. But he can then take those picks, bundle them for a running back or receiver potentially with somebody else.
Yeah, the scenario is Brady's market is teams who are being competitive, and those teams are not trading running backs.
Right.
All right, let's wrap up our roundtable chat with our Week 5 look ahead now. A quick run through the schedule, Chief, and tee up that game of the week for us, and we'll talk about that briefly.
Well, sounds good. And of course, I had a little spoiler in the commissioner's report. That's all right. So the non-games of the week, we have the Sponge and the K-Wheels that we talked about. K-Wheels 31-point favorites at home. That's the Manning Brothers Bowl.
Nice.
The Hams and the Ampac and the Giovenco Brothers Bowl. That's rated even. We have the Dirt Devils and the Lizards. I don't have a snappy nickname for that. Devils are favored by 18 on the road, but we talked about Lizards haven't set their lineup. So these are artificial spreads. Mongols visiting the Aliens. Mongols currently favored by 25. And Beavers minus 11 over the Fats, which brings us to the game of the week. We got the Senators at 3-1, going to Giant Killers, and 4-0. Giant Killers favored by 2. This game had all kinds of snappy nicknames in the past. They're both from Hoboken, but they've moved on. So I think this game is going to be a pretty good test of both teams. Marshawn Lynch is not participating, but I don't think that's really a big loss with as well as Thomas Rawls has been playing. It doesn't look like bye weeks are really going to be a factor. Let me check to make sure.
Marshall's out.
It's Marshall, that's right, and so is Jarvis Landry for Kramer. Some injuries both teams have them. Romo's out, and this stuff you've been dealing with all year. Steve Smith's a new injury to add to the Giant Killers. Lightning of them. So that's your game of the week. Let's discuss.
Go, Senators, go. Come on, Kramer. Give me a lot of love on this webcast. Follow it up.
Yeah. I'm waiting for Giant Killers to fall. I'm not sure this is going to be the week. I hope it's not the week, as I'm looking up at the Senators for a couple games. But this game's going to be really close. I really don't want to pick it.
My dilemma right now is Dalton and Flacco. I'm going to go with the guy I traded for. Dalton is in right now, but like I said, it's still tempting to keep Flacco at least 4 this week, and that's it. But to everyone's point, who's he going to throw to? So I think Dalton is now starts the Andy Dalton era.
Are you sure Dalton's going to have time to learn the playbook?
He's there's been a lot of cramming for him to get up to speed there, so he's going to be just fine.
This decision might be featured in next week's webcast.
Yeah, we just talked about Matt Stafford playing
the week.
Could be. Well, I gotta roll the dice with Dalton. He's got too many weapons. Going up against Seattle, it's a tough matchup. But I don't look for him to do anything spectacular this week. But I'd love 2 touchdowns and 300 yards, 280 yards, something like that would be great.
2 picks and a fumble.
and a torn ACL.
That's right. Berto's riding with 4 quarterbacks on the active roster right now. Wow.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to right that ship. We will eventually. We just gotta wait till things calm down a little bit, and then we can start purging. But we're not to that point yet.
We're gonna see about Kramer's team of young bucks. They're gonna come through this week.
The key guy to me is T.J. Yeldon, who finally got some yards, but I don't think he scored a touchdown yet. He's playing a weak Tampa Bay defense.
Yeah.
He's the guy. Kramer needs to be his number 1 running back, who's going to get 100 yards, get 2 touchdowns. And, Hillman and Bernard have been playing well, but they're not those bigger number 1 guys you want. Yeldon's got to come through and add some points to this lineup if they're going to beat the Giant Killers.
Yeah, it's all about the Cincinnati-Seattle game. So he's got Bernard, I got Hill. Who's going to get the points there?
Yep.
Dalton going to do anything? And then is Lynch or Rawls going to do anything? So that's going to be the big game for us.
Boy, Roddy White has looked useless.
Yeah, he has. Roddy White getting the start is questionable.
Yeah, I mean, I got Marshall on bye and Steve Smith not playing, so I gotta start Roddy White, unfortunately, unless I make a trade between now and the games, which is very possible.
Maybe move one of those 4 quarterbacks you're riding.
White made enough noise last week. They might feed him a little bit this week. He could be okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's get our answer to our TFFL trivia question. How many states has the TFFL draft been conducted in? Tell me how many you can name. I see 7 of them on Phil.
Yeah, I got 7.
7 is the correct answer. I'm not sure I
Do I
can
have
get
it right? Am I backwards? South Carolina, Nevada, Maryland, Virginia, New Jersey, New York, and Massachusetts.
Yeah, that's what I have as well.
I don't have New York.
No, New York is not a correct answer.
Ooh.
I have Maryland, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Virginia, South Carolina.
That's what I got.
Pennsylvania. Where did we go in Pennsylvania?
Pittsburgh.
Ah, yes. Okay.
There you go. So that's pretty impressive. I think 7 different states thus far. Maryland was actually a new one for us this year, believe it or not. And I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I think we'll be looking at some different destinations for next year, and maybe we can add an 8th state to the list. All right, Chief, our commissioner.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've got a good rant for us. There's lots of things to rant about in the world these days. Take it away.
I actually am. I'm unprepared for this. I will say, I don't want to rant too much against people who don't pay their bills. But come on, man, we're in week 5 of the TFFL season. If you haven't paid off house bills and any other bills, pay them. I mean, it's a little ridiculous now. There's a financial hardship that needs to be, discussed. Discuss it. But there's no excuse for still owing people money for that weekend.
Here.
Yeah.
So, make sure we have Houston and Indy on Thursday night. So make sure you get those lineups in accordingly. That's it. I I am not ranting against anything. It might be a kinder, gentler, more placid era. I don't know, but I am I'm okay this week. I will yield the guest rant if anyone has one.
No, I was just gonna say the Pirates. If anyone is interested, Stick, maybe you are. Pirates are losing 4-zip,
And there was a fight.
and there's a fight. Yeah.
Not interested.
NHL season starts tonight.
Yeah, pretty soon. Berto, I know you get excited about this. Pretty soon we'll be dealing with the TFBA.
Hoops is on.
I'll be more engaged this year in that. I'll try.
You did great last year. You did great.
You know what really grinds my gears? Little girls who don't go to bed on time.
Yeah, it grinds my gears too, big time.
Come on, man. It's a school night.
Yeah, I
Lock
know.
that down.
What are you gonna do? My daughter does not sleep.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, hey, we're down to one undefeated team, the Giant Killers. Only one team that is winless, the AMPAC. We are seeing some separation. Berto with a 2-game lead. We're also seeing a division like mine where you got 3 teams all tied at 2-2. It is time to start, jockeying for position a little bit and, looking ahead and looking at schedules. And, we're getting into the middle of the season. So good luck to everybody in week 5. And we'll see you back here just a week from today for our week 6 webcast. Good luck and take care.
Excellent.